The minions are conducting an experiment. Is it science? Not really, but they're trying. Kevin, Stuart, and Bob are in a cave and they found some bananas that look just like geodes. They take them back to the rest of the minions, who have gathered around a table piled high with bananas. Gru walks in and asks what they're doing. When he sees the pile of bananas, he sits down next to them and peels one. As he does, he notices something. All of the minions turn to him and start making a bunch of oohs and ahs. Gru looks at the peeled banana and makes a face. The minion closest to him holds up a little sign that says science and points to it with a dramatic flourish. Then the minion next to him holds up a sign that says not science. They start arguing with each other until Kevin grabs a rock and whacks the other minion upside the head. He then holds up two fingers and says, "One banana, two peelings." The other minion says, "Banana science." So begins the minion's first ever science lesson. It's time for a science experiment. In order to get the minions thinking scientifically, Gru decides to challenge them to see if they can figure out how things work by simply observing them. He peels another banana and hands the pieces to the minions, who start poking at it with sticks and making guesses about what will happen when they do certain things to it. After a while, Bob notices that the pieces are starting to get mushy. He looks at the rest of the minions and screams, "Stop touching!" The others stop and look at him. Bob points to the mushy banana and says, "Banana go soft." The minions cheer. But their victory is short-lived because Gru shakes his head and tells them that is not quite right. He then demonstrates what happens to the banana if you leave it outside in the sun for a long time. The minions ooh and ah as they watch the banana turn black and shriveled. Some of them point to the sky and make noises like they're airplanes. Gru smiles and tells them that they're getting warmer. He then explains what the sun is and what happens to the banana when it is exposed to the ultraviolet radiation in sunlight. The minions listen intently while scratching their heads. Next, Gru shows the minions a glass of water and asks them what will happen to it if he puts it in the freezer. The minions argue amongst themselves, making wild hand movements and animal noises. One minion stands up on a chair and announces that the water will turn to ice. Gru looks at him and nods his head. The minion jumps up and down with excitement. But before he can celebrate, Gru tells him that that's not exactly right. The minion hangs his head in disappointment. Gru then shows the minions how the water has frozen into a solid block of ice. He breaks off a chunk and hands it to Bob, who takes a big bite. "Banana cold," he says with a surprised look on his face. Gru smiles and tells the minions that they're almost there. He then explains what temperature and how heat always flows from warmer objects to cooler ones. As the minions process this new information, they start asking questions and making their own connections. Kevin raises his hand and asks what happens when the hottest thing touches the coldest thing. Before Gru can answer, all of the minions start screaming and running around the room. They bump into each other and fall over. A few stand back and watch, making monkey noises. Eventually, they all end up sitting back down. Exhausted, Gru looks at them and says, "See, that's an excellent observation." The minions look at each other and smile. Gru realizes that they still have a lot to learn, but he's happy to see how much they've already grasped. He knows that with a little more practice, they'll be able to understand even more complex scientific concepts. And so their science lessons continue. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more fun science adventures with the minions.